All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February edition of the Vicksburg Planning Commission meeting. Time is 7 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Secretary Cox, will you please take roll call order, or attendance, please?
Member Ryashi?
Here.
Member Blankenhorn?
Here.
Chairman Schenkel?
Present.
Member Weil?
Here.
Member DeBalt?
Here.
Member Cox is here.
Great. Trust everyone has had time to review this evening's agenda, and if there are no edits to tonight's agenda, I will call for a motion to approve the agenda.
Blankenhorn, I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion by Blankenhorn. Do we have support for that motion?
Member Ryashi, support.
Support from Rashi. Any further discussion? If not, please say aye to approve.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you. And at this time, we'll open it up for citizen comments. At this time, if you would like to speak, please come forward, state your name, your full address. You are limited to 4 minutes. All right, we will move past citizen comments, having no one move forward. And next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from our January meeting. Again, trust you've had time to review those. They're in the back of our agenda. And if there are no comments for the council or commission, we'll call for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January.
Member Weil, motion to approve the minutes.
For a while, and do we have support for that?
Blankenhorn, I support.
Support from Blankenhorn. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Thank you. And on to our Planning Commission action items. We have Mary Balkema here, and we have a presentation. I'll kick it over to our village manager for maybe an introduction.
Sure. Most everyone on the board has met Mary before. She's been an excellent partner with the village of Vicksburg going back 10 years now. Time flies by when you're having fun. And Mary's the housing director for Kalamazoo County, and as we discussed, we're kind of on a 12 to 15 month process of looking at housing issues, not only specific to Kalamazoo County or Vicksburg, Southwest Michigan, in fact, some national trends and possibly how Vicksburg can make a positive impact and how it's all interconnected with our local economy and such. So I really appreciate Mary taking the time tonight. She's very busy to come down. I will note that last check, we had about, I think, 6 people watching live on YouTube, and of course the meetings are all archived there as well. So with that, Mary Balkema.
Thank you very much. My name is Mary Balkema. I'm the housing director for Kalamazoo County. As you well know, we passed a housing millage in 2000. It generates about $8 to $9 million a year. We levy 0.75 mills. There's a little bit of a headly rollback, so I think it's 0.7485 this year. We levy it on the December tax bill, so we're in the collection period right now. I'll give you a little bit about what we've done in the last couple of years. We work closely with our local units of government. County government does not have police powers, we don't have zoning powers, we don't have planning commission powers. So really, we're a funder in affordable housing projects that the local unit of government advances. So the millage was passed in 2020. Those are some of the goals for the housing millage. We were the first county in the state to pass a housing millage, and subsequently Ingham County modeled theirs after ours, and theirs just passed at the last election in November. You can kind of see in 2020 the taxable value in the county was $9.4 billion, and it's risen to $11.5 billion. So in the last 3 years, we've seen about a 20% tax growth, which is the highest taxable value that the county has ever experienced. So if you take $11.5 billion times 0.7485, that's how we come up with our budget. The local unit of government that contributes the most to the millage is the city of Portage. They contribute 22%, because because they have the highest taxable value in the county. We asked the WEF John Institute to do a study a few years back. They're in the process of updating the study for us, which will be available in March. Their original housing assessment showed that we have about 15,000 overburdened rental households in the community. If you take your income times, your gross income times 30%, that's what you should be paying in rent and utilities, or principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. If you're paying more than that, you are rent burdened or housing burdened. So we have about 12,000 overburdened homeowners and 15,000 overburdened renters. Right now, to afford housing in the county, you need to make over $19 an hour, and many of our employers are not doing that. The lowest wage at the county is $15.80. That affords about $821 a month in rent. There's no place to rent in the county for $821 a month that is suitable. We also have an aging housing stock. I'm sure you can see that right in the village, that you have an aging housing stock. Since the Great Recession, there's a lack of starter homes. We have an aging population that would like smaller households, but it's not to be. So a lot of folks live in their great big house with 4 bedrooms, even though their kids have long moved out. So they're not moving because the cost to build or the interest rate is simply too high. The housing study also suggested that we need 7,750 units of all housing types, market rate. So if you look at housing as an ecosystem, we need 7,750 of all housing types.
Mary, I forgot, I think, is that mic on?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So by 2030, our goal was to build 7,750 units. We kind of know where we would like them in area median income. The city of Portage would like only attainable housing between 80 and 100%, and other local units of government will do some 30%, some 50%, some 60%, but some local units, don't want any, and some just want workforce housing, and that would be between 80 and 120%. We've done a lot of rehab work in the county, and then of course we also fund supportive services. We're doing a 19 unit for survivors of human trafficking, and obviously when you've been human trafficked, you need about 2 years of supportive housing to get back on your feet. So we do specialty housing for stressed populations, and then we provide the supportive services around that as well. We asked the WEF John to redo our housing study because of the Blue Oval Battery Plant in Marshall. Marshall does not have an aggressive housing plan, so they're obviously adding jobs, but the majority of those folks will live in Kalamazoo County. So they're always looking at what is putting pressure on our homes. We also know the number of our households that are unsheltered and sheltered. On January 23rd, 50 of us went in the woods and counted everyone who was houseless. So we provide those numbers to HUD, and then federal funding follows that. So we kind of track folks that are unhoused, and we also go and we catalog everyone as well. The voucher system at the state has been closed for some time, so it's putting pressure on where folks can live. We have about 1,700 homeless kids in our school system through the entire county. That rose from 1,400 last year. So we know we have a lot of folks doubled up that are living in their cars. We have over 100 kids at the mission. So we kind of know what our populations are doing. Our function of affordable housing is driven by area median income. This chart is put out by HUD. We do not make it up. You can see that 100% of area median income for a family of 4 in the county is $100,800. So that does rise every year. If you look at Ann Arbor's AMI, obviously it would be higher than Kalamazoo County. So we fund everybody at 120% and below of area median income. So when people say, I just can't stand affordable housing, I don't want it in my area, I couldn't possibly live next to those people, I think that $100,800 is a decent wage for a family of four. So we're really talking about housing for folks that have jobs, have income, have cars. There's really no free place to live in America. So we don't have a homeless millage, we have an affordable housing millage. And we live or die on this area median income chart. Here's some of our progress that we've had in the first few years. We have a lot that is being built right now that is under construction. We've rehabbed about 215 homes. We work everywhere with our rehab dollars. Some of the lowest income census tracts in the county are in the city of Galesburg. We've done a lot of work in the city of Galesburg. We fund all of our supportive service partners from the Y to Disability Network. The number one fair housing complaint in the county is for folks with disabilities. So if you are going to build a multi-unit, we would ask that you put some units in for folks that are experiencing disabilities. Reach sober living, we have opioid crisis as well, so that continues to be very popular, things that deal with substance abuse disorder. We fund South County eviction, KNHS down payment, we fund our mental health, ISK, comes to housing advocates, fair housing. Because fair housing is the law, and there's a few reasons you can discriminate in housing, but there's many reasons you cannot discriminate in housing. So folks that take the millage, we expect them to abide by fair housing. We've had a lot of press. We also buy media stories through Second Wave Media. I'm not a huge fan of gotcha stories, and so we put resources together with our partners to get positive coverage. And then we get a lot of coverage. This summer, we were featured in the New York Times with a really nice article on housing. If you haven't read it, I'll send it to you. It's a pretty good one. During 2022, this was the first year of our millage, and the city of Kalamazoo is probably the most experienced in the housing arena. So of course, they did apply for the majority of the funds and received them. Our $7 million leveraged up another $115 million. So we're tracking where we're putting the money, how our money is being leveraged up. Without money into some of these projects, they would have never, ever, ever got to the finish line. Especially, we had a senior project. It's a 9% tax credit deal at 530 South Rose. It's been a few years in the making, and it just was completed December 31st of 2024. So it has affordable units, it has market rate units. The builder is American Village Builders, and it's really, really nice. Then in 2023, you can see some of our housing projects, they expand well outside of the city into the county, and that, because it is a countywide millage, that's exactly what we wanted. So you can see some of the projects we funded here too. Here's a project on the north side. We did some tiny houses for folks that were formerly incarcerated that have substance use disorder. They're 400 square feet. They come with a kitchen and a bathroom. They were $100,000 a piece to build. Anytime you have housing that has obviously a kitchen and a bathroom, it's expensive per square foot. Here's our 2024 housing projects. Many of them are under construction. The lofts on Riverside and Comstock is under construction. Kilgore Apartments is under construction. You can see TC Scott, we're doing a project with them in Portage, kind of a pattern book duplex, which is really nice. We purchased 10 mobile homes, and they're in Sugarloaf Mobile Home Park on Shaver Road. You can see some of our projects there. This is kind of new. It's employer ownership opportunity program with housing. So if a business puts in money, our housing millage will match for either down payment assistance or critical repair. And then the employer can put on how long they want the person to work there, if it's forgivable, 3 years, 5 years. We think it's a good retention program. The first year, the county and the cities of Kalamazoo and Portage put in money and the housing millage matched it. But if you're interested, you can certainly do that too. We fund the disability network. You might not be disabled today, but if you are tomorrow, you want reasonable accommodation made either in your shower or a ramp. So we give money to the disability network. And you can see these other services that we fund. Here's some of our 2025. We're doing a multi-unit in the city of Portage. We continually give money to KNHS and Community Homeworks for critical repair and rehab. Going forward, that money might slow down a little bit. We just received a $18 million EPA grant for green energy in Edison, East Side, North Side, and West Douglas. It'll put $40,000, up to $40,000 in improvements into those homes, and there's no income requirement. So that's a really big deal. But to put out $18 million in 3 years, we are going to stress every single one of our rehab contractors. So the bulk of our focus in the next 3 years has got to be those neighborhoods, otherwise we'll never get the money spent. 2026, we're working a little bit more on the north side with 36 units. And then River Caddis is doing a project across from Portage City Hall, kind of back by that Walgreens, kind of in the swamp there. The state awarded them $5 million to the project, and the millage awarded them $1.25 million. So that will break ground soon. We've done a lot of work on the north side. Obviously, that's a majority-minority neighborhood, has had a lot of disinvestment for 50 years. These are 4 new homes on Ransom Street. Here's some stuff that we did with Habitat for Humanity. The kitchens were built by prisoners in the Ionia prison. So we partner where we can with folks that can get some of this work done. This is the Lodge House. It's a former motel. To get in here, you have to have experienced homelessness. Not everyone can be successful with the rules in housing. So as you can well expect, it has about a 75% success rate. Some of it does have a revolving door. Here's the Rose Place on Rose Street that was just done. That's our brand new senior unit. Some of our issues that continually to face housing are obviously the construction costs, the interest rates at about 7%. It is too expensive with the interest rate now for folks to get their capital stack complete. There's an appraisal gap. These houses on the north side cost $480,000 to build, and we bid them out 3 times, and they will appraise for $200,000. So there's no builder that is going to do housing on the north side with the appraisal gap. It still exists, and it's coming up, but you cannot build anything in an urban neighborhood and have it pencil out. Nothing, nothing, nothing. So if a housing millage or government is not in this place, this is obviously the hardest hit with the housing downturn. We demoed hundreds of houses, so that's obviously where the majority of our vacant lots are. The increasing income housing gap, in 1980, the average price of a home in this county was just over $76,000. That was just over 3 times the average household income, which was around $21,000 at the time. Today, the exact same ratio is nearly 7 to 1. The average home price is almost $500,000, whereas the average income is around $75,000. So the wages simply have not caught up with the housing prices. Issues facing development and solutions. What are some of the solutions? Training new labor force, a revolving loan fund. The Community Foundation will loan money into our projects at 2% interest. That's a far cry from 7%. So at 2%, the projects can pencil out. Those appraisal gaps, I don't know how to get rid of that. I mean, we're seeing them over and over and over. On the wage side, I think the employer-assisted housing, if you have employees that are lower wage earners and they need a new roof or they need critical home repair, to get that and make their job a little bit more sticky, it really does help them grow wealth over time. This is a new project, over 200 units on River's Edge on Harrison Street and Gull Road. It was 7 years in the making. Without the housing millage, it would have never, ever, ever made it to the finish line. So we can see where our housing millage over and over is having really, really big impact. Other tools, the housing TIF, tax increment financing, a workforce housing pilot, low-income housing tax credits. There's money available in MISHTA, my neighborhood. There's $8 million that is put out twice a year to our region. We're in Region J. We're a multi-county region. We're doing a land trust in the city of Portage. We rely still heavily on philanthropy too to help us fill the gaps on these pro formas. And then obviously the housing millage is really, really, really helpful. These are the modular homes that we did at Sugarloaf. The public utilities do not go all the way down Shaver Road. They stop before Sugarloaf Mobile Home Park. So we gave the mobile home owner a 0% loan so he could increase the water capacity and the sewer capacity. So this is what they look like. They were $70,000 a piece. We went to Wakarusa, Indiana, toured the factory, and they're nice. So here's one that we staged, and a family of 4 kids and a mom. Her husband was gunned down through gun violence. They are moving in here, and it's all stainless steel appliances. It's super, super nice. Families experiencing homelessness obviously might not have a table, 4 beds, all of this stuff. So there's a nonprofit, it's called Sparrow and Nest, and they will furnish all of our homes. They get a tremendous amount of donations. All this furniture somebody donated. The bedding and the beds and the mattresses are brand new, but who cares if you use a used table? I mean, nobody cares, right? So we are happy that these families can be stable and really can have affordable housing. We are doing 44 single-family homes in Portage, and Portage and Stanley. If you go down Stanley, you kind of dead end into Austin Lake, just to kind of give you a visual where that is. The city of Portage owned 12 acres. The county put in some ARPA money for infrastructure. The city of Portage did, and then they got a federal earmark to put in the infrastructure. We are using our millage funds to fund the construction. They will be sold. And hopefully, after I have $3 million there, they'll deliver a house a week until all of our money's spent. I don't know how many houses we'll get to, but it's just really a math problem. Hopefully it'll be something around 44. We don't know yet. This is what it's going to look like. It's single-family homes, and this is what the houses will look like. So 2-story, 1-story. It's really workforce housing for folks that make between 80 and 120%. It's a community land trust where you will own the house, you will not own the dirt. The appreciation can raise no faster than inflation. And so really, you're not gonna if you're getting a house that's substantially lower than market, you're not gonna walk away with all that appreciation. You're gonna walk away with a percentage, and then it's gonna go back for an affordable family. So it's a way to make sure that affordability stays.
Where's that again?
It's on Portage and Stanley. And if folks are interested in it, the city of Portage has a list. So fair housing is first come, first serve, whoever gets there first, and is bankable. So you have to take the housing class, you have to be bankable, and you have to be on the list, right? We just bought a hotel right on the back side of the airport for homeless families. We have 1,700 homeless families, and obviously children do not have earning power. So the county board generously gave us $3.5 million out of the general fund. We took $400,000 out of the millage. The city of Kalamazoo gave us some ARPA money, and the city of Portage hopefully will give us $500 from their general fund. So we close, it's right, you can see it highlighted, it's kind of across from Bittergy. It's on 4 acres. The green space is going to be a playground for the kids. We're going to fence it in. We're also going to fill in the pool and kind of make a little child recreation area. It's in the city of Kalamazoo. It looks like it should be in the city of Portage because the city of Kalamazoo annexed that land many years ago because the city owned the airport. And then when they annexed the land, I mean, it was theirs forever, obviously, and then they sold the airport to the county. So it really was in the city of Portage at one time, but through annexation, it's in the city of Kalamazoo, but it's Portage Public Schools. The bus goes there. We're going to put out an RFP for an operator. So the county's gonna own the building, but we are not going to operate it. Here it is. It's pretty nice inside. I need to do fire suppression in every room because we're changing use. So that is gonna take a hot minute to get that done, but otherwise it's very nice and it's ready to go. So that is it. We're a department of 2, so that's our department right there.
Mary, these funds are they like grants? Do businesses and developers apply for them? And so is that part of your department as well as you're reviewing these applications and granting those funds?
So we open up categories that we're willing to fund. Multifamily, single family, we have a creative category, supportive services, and owner-occupied rehab. Single family scattered is really hard to do, so I think we're gonna let the land bank do that, or folks can apply through MISTA Region J. Really where we're gonna find the most units is multifamily, so I wanna fund multifamily and I wanna fund supportive services. So we'll open up our portal in April. We send out, and folks that want to come in are already coming to us and saying, here's our project, here's our gap, how can you help us? So maybe philanthropy can help. I'm the treasurer for the Foundation for Excellence if you're in the city of Kalamazoo. They put out $5 million for aspirational projects. So we're trying to fit the funding with the project so you really can start in a reasonable amount of time.
Okay.
Is Village of Vicksburg coming up at all in conversations for development?
Sure, and it has for a long time. This is a very desirable place, but market rate can obviously pencil out here all day long. I mean, we've talked about being a redevelopment-ready community. I think land is a finite thing, right? You're not gonna annex probably your neighbor. You're not gonna get more land. So really, I think part of the question on Planning Commission should be density. What type of density are you willing? Are you willing to have duplexes or fourplexes? Or more density on spots? More density pays the bills a lot better than a single family house on an acre. It just does. And urban areas, of which yours is maybe a little bit more urban than suburban, right? You need density to pay the bills. And so we can't be prescriptive what we want things to look like, but I think as a planning commission, that should be in front of you, that density is not a bad word, right? And instead of a single family home, would you consider a duplex or a fourplex? And TC Scott is doing it in Portage, and we are loaning money into a project because when we grant money into a project, it signals you have to pay taxes on that. But if I can loan money into it and you can kind of match the depreciation with our loan amount, we can kind of help you through that if you're a for-profit developer. So his is really nice. Those Michigan Municipal League pattern plans are really nice. And I think he's gonna start this year. I think if it's successful, that could be replicated really easy in a place like this.
And that goes into diversifying the housing here, right, that we talked about last month?
Correct. In a real application, I mean, we have a house that'll be torn down in the village, and in the two different developers looking at it was the first question out to make the performa work for them. They needed at least a duplex, and both really wanted a quad to be put on the property. And currently that zoning won't allow it in, I think it was in an R2 district, if I remember correctly. I don't know why you're whispering. It's just us here.
I'm just sitting up here, I'm not sure if I can talk, but
You can
I
talk.
was wondering if everybody knows what these plan houses are that Mary's referring to a few times. Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Pre-approved plans, basically, that don't have to go through the level of approval.
site plan review and that, they're already, yes.
And so it's really redevelopment ready. Here is the plan, here's the cost, here's the incentive.
Yeah, here, a couple, one of the areas, we have had initial conversation, this was about a year and a half ago, with a local developer who has a property in the village, looking at multi-use, but again, it's, that developer owns the property. It would be, originally, the sketch plan was, I think, for 3 stories and I think 5 buildings. But as things draw out, I think I heard one of these programs, just turning dirt or completing, started 7 years ago. So we're just shy of 2 years on those initial conversations, but we reached out to Mary with the developer, I think, on that phone call, asking what, would potentially this be something to look at, so.
In some of our projects, the Coney Island restaurant downtown, there's a hotel above that is super, super old. We're putting money into that project for some affordable units, and it's well on its way. It's gonna be really beautiful. The state just gave an award to a developer to the brewery on the corner of Portage in East Michigan. Is it Saugatuck Brewery that was in there? That had a fire, and it damaged, I don't know exactly what it damaged, but I think it damaged some of the units and the kitchen. The state just gave 1.1 million to redo those units and make them affordable. So there is money out there, but you have to agree to affordability. Government never, ever, ever puts money into a private enterprise, into a private individual doing what they want. That's illegal. So if you take our money, you will also agree to a 20-year affordability and some affordable units. I don't care what the affordable units are. If you need units that are for 30%ers, then that's what you should do, or 60%ers. We're not prescriptive on that, but whatever this body agrees to, and you put it in your application, then you're really gonna do that for the next 20 years. And then after that, all bets are off. You can do whatever you want with it. We don't care. But for 20 years, you will be compliant with the affordability.
Are there other questions, or?
Yeah, I had 2 questions. They kind of got brought up because I saw 2 things in the presentation that kind of conflicted to me. One was on the slide about like the articles being written. You mentioned that you were on track to meet your current goals for the millage and the project. But then a couple slides before that, you mentioned that the homeless student population rose from 400 to like 1,400, like over 3.5 times. Is that like an expected kind of lag behind the housing stock becoming available to like to people who need it? And also, are there plans to adjust either the millage or the goals of the millage as the project kind of goes?
So those are good questions. So in the homeless side, we spend about $10 million a year on homelessness. That's the mission, that's ministry with community, that's all of our social service. I really work in the affordable housing arena, so they are different, right? When the homeless kids go from 1,400 to 1,700, if there were starter homes or homes that were cheaper, some of our homeless families could get out of homelessness, right, and go into them, but that stock is not available. For instance, I just took a tax foreclosure in Portage. It's a 4-bedroom. I redid the whole thing. I have $150,000 into it. I sold it last week. There's one house available in Portage for $150,000, and it happened to be the one that I had. That's the only reason I know it. So just like those mobile home parks, we pay $400 for the lot rent, and then we need a payment back on our $70,000. So we need another, I don't know, $300 back. So the rent for these homeless families is $700, $700 to $800, depending on what you can afford. And these families are coming in with that amount, and they're paying us. So if you miss a month or if life happens, we're not gonna yank you out of there. That's why we master leased all the lots. But if our housing ecosystem was flowing like it should, folks should be able to get out of near homelessness or living in their car into a home, but this is the part that's missing. So maybe something like a mobile home park really does fill that need, right? With 4 kids, it's hard to go into a 1-bedroom apartment with 4 kids. We will not fund that. we need so many heads in beds. And it seems to me, and I could be wrong, but the cheapest, best way to put these folks into housing right now is mobile modular homes.
Not multifamily?
It takes so long to build, and it is so expensive. But, I mean, we're building multifamily, of course, because we need that too.
You mentioned the development out in Marshall, reaching this far for housing. What's your experience as it does relate to industries wanting to come into the area and the lack of workforce housing available to a potential workforce?
Well, we've got together with them, and some of their employees had creative ways how to live at your company and then live in your car at night. When we're having those discussions, it's not really that great, right? And so even if you're making 25, 30 bucks an hour, there's folks that live behind businesses and tents. They know their folks are back there, and they're like, just leave them alone. And the folks that are homeless, especially these homeless families that we're putting in, they have money. We have people that live in hotels full time. You know how expensive that is? It's $500 a week, and there's no place to go. And admittedly, the hotel, they don't care if you have a criminal background. They don't care if you're high. They don't care if you have a pet. In some of our places, we care a lot if you have a CSE, and we care a lot if you're on your substance and you're not coming clean. I mean, we do, right? And so some folks really that are in the hotel for a reason. Some people are in the woods for a reason. I just spent 7 hours in the woods on January 23 to count these folks, and I asked them, why are you here? Why aren't you in the shelter? They all had the exact same thing in common, and it struck me. They all were in special ed when they were kids. Every one of them. Then there was not one person who was drunk. There was not one person that was high. So it was cold on January 23rd in the woods. It was freezing cold. And we had hats, gloves, mittens. I had a whole backpack full of stuff for folks. They were formerly incarcerated. The women, a lot of the teeth were missing. The women looked pretty rough, but they were very honest. I was right on the ground with them talking, and we were, asking them questions. None of them were HIV positive. A lot of them have dealt with mental illness, depression, and schizophrenia. But it's a sad story, right? It is really cold in Michigan, like in a night like tonight or tomorrow night, and they're pretty sophisticated on how they keep warm and stay warm. But still, we have about 100 folks every night that are in the woods. 100. We have 270,000 people. I don't know if that seems like a big number to you or a small number. Right, and if it's me in the woods, it would seem like a disaster, right? So it's all who you know and who it is. But there's kids. We were in Comstock. There's kids in the cars and Menards and all those stores, and the police help us find them. We know where they are, and we take volunteers. We take the navigators, and we really do find folks where they're living.
So there's a significant housing shortage, and we almost can't build them fast enough.
That is my perspective.
And it's not just the housing for the unhoused and homeless, it's across the board.
Right.
It's
So that means it's here too.
It's like,
It's not just,
well, she said up to 120%, right? That's what you consider what you're able to provide for. Yeah, so it's a big swath.
It's a big swath, and we have lists of folks that are looking constantly. And like the 44 homes in Portage, we've been working on that for 3 years. And the first house, the shovel is not even in the ground yet. And so government doesn't move fast, housing developers don't move fast, and yet the need continues, and the wages have not kept up with the cost of. So it really is there. If there was something to do fast, I just don't know it, outside of a mobile home park. And then that lot rent gets you. And so I think if it was utopia, I would buy the land, develop all the lots myself, have that kind of be a sunk cost, and then you just pay for that mobile home, and you just buy it from me over time, so you don't trash your credit. And I think that's probably the most stable. But where I look for land, it's either not zoned properly, or it's in an area that maybe that's not the highest and best use for. So I look constantly for property to develop my own mobile home park. But if anyone has any good suggestions, we're always open for them and open to them. And there's no bad idea in housing. We've done a tiny house, we've done the big house, we've done the multi-unit, we've done the modular, we've done it all. And I'm not sure what one thing works. I know what doesn't work, and that's being in the woods. That just should not work with a kid long term.
Great. Any other questions for Ms. Balkema?
Our website, we have our annual reports, we have our housing study, so we have everything that you might want to learn about housing. And then our new housing study obviously will be up in March, and we'll put that on our website as well. Our website changes tomorrow to kellcounty.gov. So we are really getting in with the way it's supposed to be titled right now is .com. So it's all out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to our DDA agenda. We have a RFP for review. Manager Mallory?
Yeah, I just wanted to update the Planning Commission and DDA that when we submitted it or put out the RFP in December and went through that process, we only had one proposal that met the specifications. I've contacted that company and advised them we're going to recraft the RFP specific to the downtown plan. And it will be presented to the Village Council on February 24th to be posted and distributed on February 25th for 30 days. And we're going to make direct contact with 5 or 7 companies to request, to see if they'll submit a proposal based on that RFP. Hopefully being able to present to the council the 4th week of April. A recommended company to begin the process on updating that plan specific to downtown, but be happy to answer any questions on that.
Was the company that submitted local or relatively local?
In Kalamazoo.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then the Iceberg Fest, we've been meeting, had a well-attended meeting this morning at 9:30 to move that program forward. Looking forward to a good time on Saturday, February 22nd. 2 very large tents that'll be heated, chainsaw, wood carving. There'll be 9 ice sculptures throughout the village, so open fire Samora stations. The retail specials are going to start at 10 a.m. The tent with 7 local restaurants competing in the soup contest begins noon to 4. And then 4 coffee shops will have coffee samples down there with dessert samples. So we have 11 vendors and then a heated tent area, all surrounded by Oswald Park. Magic shows, 30-minute magic shows will be going on at 101 East Prairie Street from noon through 4 o'clock. A live band will be in 107 from 3:30 to 5:30. And then, so a lot of social media activity you're going to see almost on a daily basis. That'll be coming out here as we move forward to February 22nd. The tickets, the only cost associated are to get involved in the soup competition and that. Like I said, 7 different local eateries will be down there. It's pre-sales are $20 with in-day sales at $25. And it's all, we'll pay very limited of the expenses and help out with future events. So looking forward to it.
Great. Any questions for staff on Iceberg Fest? All right. Any other comments from village manager?
No, that'll do it. Be happy to answer any questions.
Member comments?
Thank you for that presentation, Mary. That was really eye-opening, so.
Mary, on your, going back to that, is education a lot of it with the homeless people that you go into the woods? Is it education as far as the people that are in the woods?
Part of it's education, part of it is a real resistance to follow any rules or any structure. Some of it is being formally incarcerated, that they say, you know what, this is a lot better than a jail cell. So part of it's the relativity of what they were used to. And then I think a part of it, some of them have burned all their family social structure and if someone taking them into their home. And, you know, and then of course you get the dose of mental illness right with it too. I think it's all of it. So it's really multifaceted. And some people just have a sad life.
Thank you.
Yeah, I walked away with sadness. And I don't really think anyone signs up to be in special ed, right? Hey, pick me to be in special ed when I'm, you know, in grade school. And so I think it started out probably a little bit disadvantaged, right? And then instead of getting the good job and having the education, they probably started into petty crime because that's what they could do to make a fast buck. And then it caught up with them, and they were incarcerated, and you know, it just kind of spirals down, right? Every one of them said they were in special ed, though. It really struck me. Mm-hmm.
I have 3 special ed students that work for me, and it's really a pleasure working with them. It is. You get more. I get more work out of them than people out just trying to get a job. You know, they're and feel they're changing their lives. So
We have a church that's going to do housing for folks with special needs and Down syndrome, and I'm kind of excited about that too, because some parents really worry that if they are deceased before their kid gets into stable housing, what's going to happen? You know, it's a real fear with parents, and so we're really making some really good progress. And the church has a $12 million asset and a property that they are going to donate for it. And we're in the discussion phases now, but I'm really, there's a lot of promise that this is going to get off the ground soon too. So where we can fill in specialty housing, you know, we fund our veteran shelter for folks that are experiencing PTSD or homelessness as veterans to get them back on our feet. We house frequent users of the emergency room and the Public Housing Commission. We own housing. Those folks go to the emergency room weekly and are super expensive. So we work closely with the hospital to get those folks out of the emergency room and into housing. We house folks that have mental illness too, because we don't want them in general population in the mission. It's just there's too much going on there. So the Public Housing Commission does own specialty housing. The government does not own any public housing. So we really do want to use the developer model, for-profit, and our nonprofit infrastructure. So anywhere we can, if we can use South County, we funneled a lot of money to there to help Pavilion Estates. It's super, super helpful. So they can income qualify people, keep folks in their trailers. We gave the money so they could all be upgraded that were hit with a tornado. And so we're always looking to see what stressed populations we have and then how we can kind of backfill with our partners.
Any other member comments? Thank you again, Mary. Very good. All right, the time is 7:49. I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a great February.